Oceania International Championships. We're here covering the video game action, and I'm so excited to welcome back Adam Doricott to the desk.
Yeah, I took one round off and I'm right back at it. So, you know, really trying to keep things rolling here and keep the games coming with all the fun and exciting action. I think
Side by side in order to really make this work. So on that note, let's get into game number 1 here of this round number 5 between Marco Silva and Aurelien Soula.
And immediately we get to see the Tyranitar, which I was a little bit concerned about where it fit in this team. But apparently the lead is the answer and exactly where Marco wants it to be and be able to start causing problems with it almost immediately. Does contain some very interesting options immediately on the Talonflame as well. Of course, you know, you kind of at some point you have to try and get rid of this friend guard. This mouse hold sits around, it's going to be able to friend guard for so long and just cause so many problems that way. So I really like, you know, the adaptation of mouse hold, getting away from that population bomb build, which a lot of people were really pushing on early in Series 1 and a little bit coming into Series 2. But now it does something different. It's really out there for its friends.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you're going to look at some coverage being chosen here by Marco just to look at some of the options that could come through. But we are seeing a terrestrialization right away here from Aurelien. It's going to be that Golden Go turning into the Terra Steel. And so if it's a Make It Rain coming the way, then, hey, that's going to be really impactful. But Baby Doll Eyes!
That's a move I've not seen in a while, as it does lower the attack of the Tyranitar. And the Tyranitar's going to have a really rough time, right? Just going Steel, getting rid of that Ghost typing is really big when you're facing down a Pokemon that could deal pretty significant damage to you. That's also going to be lowered by the Baby Doll Eyes. The lack of super effectiveness there puts, I think, honestly, Aurelien in a great position. This is now a free Nasty Plot set up over onto the Golden Go. Took very little damage for its trouble, is still protected by the Friend Guard for a little bit here. And of course, the only kind of thing that helps out is, yes, you got the taunt down over onto the mouse hold, but it can still, you know, try and deal with you in other ways. One of them is probably coming up as the Rock Slide. It feels underwhelming now.
Feels a little underwhelming, but where there's a Rock Slide, there's a way. Unfortunately, not this time to get the flinch onto the mouse hold. So that Super Fang will bring that Tyranitar down to half HP as the follow-up of the Golden Go Make It Rain is going to get the knockout onto the Tyranitar. Talonflame, though, setting up the Tailwind. At least you know you do have that speed control going into the later turns of this game, as we're going to get a chance to see what Marco has brought in the back for this game number 1.
Yep, and that's going to be really important as these both need to kind of sweep through the team. And there's the perfect execution of why people are running Super Fang on Mouse Hold, right? It's just being able to take out a Pokemon that can be quite bulky. I mean, obviously with the Assault Vest, the Tyranitar is pretty hard to take down with a special attacker, but it doesn't take all that much, really. One Super Fang, and obviously the Nasty Plot went up for free, was able to then just take it down with the Make It Rain. So really smart play there. Obviously, the Terra typing is still available for Marco. We'll see exactly how he decides to execute that one coming into the next couple of turns, because at some point, I think he's going to need to use it to maybe try and buy himself a little wiggle room. He is the fastest thing on the field right now, but I'm not sure of how he's going to be able to really push this one along if he doesn't take down the Golden Go very soon. And that's even harder to do when you're facing down it being protected by Friend Guard.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you're trying to go for the Brave Bird here to just chip down some damage onto this Mouse Hold. Mouse Hold doesn't have too many options here, maybe trying to get some damage down on the Talonflame, but the Talonflame did just get knocked out here, and the Super Fang into the protect of the Fluttermane. Yeah, it's going to be able to at least stay alive here for now.
I actually don't think that's a bad turn for Marco at all, though. What he actually wants is to get to the next couple turns of Tailwind with both of his sweeping Paradox Pokemon in the 4. So being able to set them up and then just try and kind of tear through Aurelien's team really, really quickly while he's still got active, you know, the Tailwind up. He's guaranteed to be going first across the board, is going to be big. But still a fair chunk of work to be able to do. Of course, you know, you can just try and throw these attacks down. It's going to be really, really important there. And everything's probably going at the Golden Go, which I think is going to be a tough ask. Because, yeah, Hydro Pump connects to begin with. That's exactly what you need. Oh, a critical hit.
Well, that's going to help out a little bit, at least to try to get the knockout here with the Shadow Ball follow-up. And so Golden Go is not going to be able to get another attack off in this game number 1. Down to what this Mouse Hold is going to be able to do, and Super Fang might be able to at least chunk down something if it hits, and it will. So That's going to be half HP gone from the Iron Bundle.
Yeah, that's the Iron Bundle being worn down. Of course, a little bit of extra damage from the Sandstorm. That's going to be affecting both Pokemon on Marco's side. Of course, the safety goggles on the mouse hold, not a big concern. But, you know, this is getting to one of those situations where Aurelia's just working through those Tailwind turns and maybe save something in the back to just try and close out this game really, really quickly. I think that's probably why you've got Marco holding onto that Terra typing, right? Wants to find a window where a vital Terra at the end could seal it up and make this 3-2 advantage really not seem like as advantageous as it is. The Iron Bundle also comes out, is of course also going to activate Quark Drive with the booster energy, so both of them kind of going the same way in that regard with item choice. And it looks like, you know, it's just going to be one of those kind of safe turns. Let's see if Marco's able to get away with the move he just locked in. I think he's going to absolutely put himself in the driving seat.
Yeah, it depends on how these Iron Bundle are trained as well, right? You know, you never know exactly how the stats are kind of spread out across the board, but seeing at least that the booster energy has come through for the speed, you know that that is going to be the highest stat for both, as Marco just goes to protect, and it's a protect on the other side here for Aurelia.
Aurelia playing it safe here, wants to kind of scout out what was going to come from the Iron Bundle, maybe where the targeting was going to be, try and get through the turns of Tailwind as well, but this is a absolutely free substitute going up for the Flutter main, and now this 3-2 advantage is almost like 3-3, right? You got to deal with the substitute, then you got to deal with the Flutter main, so certainly a difficult position to try and work around. Aurelien did get past the Tailwind turns, though. It's not able to go right back up, so now needs to just be really diligent on getting these attacks down. And the mouse hold, you know, is definitely limited on contributing damage-wise.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just even the Super Fang alone, just being able to bring the Iron Bundle down to maybe a quarter if it decides to go for that again, but also the taunt is over. So the mouse hold can also just go for Follow Me to keep this Iron Bundle safe. And now the Freeze Dry. Opposing Freeze Dry now going into the Iron Bundle here will get the knockout onto Marcos, and so it's just the Flutter main behind this substitute to really be able to do the job here, as Flutter main's still safe, gets to go for the Moonblast, and will at least secure the knockout onto the mouse hold.
Yep, and getting the mouse hold down is big there. It obviously makes all of the subsequent knockouts that you need a whole lot easier. The big thing for me is, will this Flutter main be able to clutch it out? Obviously, needs to deal with a couple of attacks, but weaving in big attacks in retaliation could be huge, as there's the Great Tusk to try and close it out for Aurelia, though.
Yep, that Great Tusk is going to be pretty impactful. I mean, the Iron Bundle could go for a Protect here from Aurelia, so at least you're able to keep it safe, but you have to find a way to break the substitute before the Flutter main breaks you. And it looks like Marco knows that it's going to be a little too much to chew through with the Iron Bundle and the Great Tusk available. So Aurelia will take game number 1.
Yep, and I think Marco sees the writing on the wall there, right? It wasn't something weird in the back that he was going to be able to deal with kind of quickly. It was the Great Tusk, which was going to do a pretty significant amount of damage at some point, you know, being able to really cause problems that way. So definitely a tough one to navigate around. You know, did try and set this up. And the Flutter main, you know, having that Protosynthesis ability, it looks like it's levitating, but it's not. And at some point, you're going to get caught with the Headlong Rush, which is just going to take you out. I think, you know, you look at it, Iron Bundle deals with a substitute. Great Tusk cleans up, and that kind of writing on the wall there was really big. So another great showing for the mouse hold here today in Oceania.
Absolutely. And the Great Tusk having the Focus Sash as well was always going to survive through at least one attack, so you are guaranteed to get 2 turns of damage. So yeah, at some point, I think you just kind of have to play the rock, paper, scissors game, and it does go in favor of Aurelia for this game number 1. But game number 2, I think Marco still played game 1 very well, could still go for that type of strategy, but it didn't really feel like the Tailwind was as impactful as you might have wanted it to be. Talonflame's still necessary, though. You shut off a lot of the utility of the mouse hold.
Well, one thing I noticed from Marco's side as well is he didn't use his terrestrialization. Never felt there was a position where he needed it or it was going to give him any significant advantage. So, you know, just being able to cause problems that way may have given him a little bit more wiggle room and something to look at into game number 2 and potentially 3 as well. So holding back on a key mechanic clearly felt like he was a little bit off the pace, and that wasn't actually going to make a difference. So that's definitely a tough one to try and get through. Definitely wants to bounce back from that one, because that's kind of straightforward. Just set up Tailwind and sweep with 2 of the best sweepers in the game in the Flutter main and the Iron Bundle. Just never felt like it was there. And this is something I find interesting about the Flutter main builds that we keep seeing. A lot of people are sacrificing the Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think I'll have a better opinion on the end of the weekend when we know, do you need spread damage?
Yeah, I think the spread damage can definitely be very useful, but I think that you're looking at single target just being a little bit stronger, and so that way you can really focus down one particular target. I think with the follow me, obviously it's very tempting, and you're like, oh yeah, spread damage would be really, really good here. But maybe not right now as Baby Doll Eyes comes through, but right into the protect of the Great Tusk as we start this first turn of game number 2.
And it's really worked out, knowing that that Baby Doll Eyes just slowed Marco down so significantly on the Tyranitar last game. Certainly feels like a smart idea. No nasty plot this time though from the Golden Go. Just kind of wants to push on early doors, just land a make it rain. Obviously not very effective, still doing a good chunk of damage, but the special attack going down now may force an earlier kind of choice. The one thing I love about this Great Tusk coming in is you can see how quickly Marco's locking his moves in. Much easier to shut down the Golden Go right now. There's no real way to get around it. You know, even if you go for your Terra typing, you're still going to be very, very weak to it. And this is the Terra typing coming through onto the Great Tusk, which does mean it's going to be the focal point. I mean, Mousehole can try and Super Fang it back, but that taunt now means there's really no way to pull away a move from this Great Tusk.
Yeah, you're really hoping that the Super Fang is still going to keep the Great Tusk alive here as the Earthquake comes through faster than the Golden Go. You will be able to get that super effective damage down onto it. And is it going to be enough to get the double knockout here? It at least gets the knockout onto the Mousehole with the Friend Guard, keeping this Golden Go alive.
Friend Guard being absolutely clutch once again as another Make It Rain lands. It's bringing both the Pokemon low, but it's not enough for a knockout. And now this Great Tusk is exceptionally low, but it doesn't need much wiggle room. I think without priority available, it would be going down. But speaking of, you know, we're going to be going with a particularly, you know, tough situation. I like the Iron Bundle coming in here.
Yeah. At this point, I think you're trying to at least get rid of the Iron Bundle, so maybe you can go for some strategies in the back there that aren't reliant on trying to keep that speed control. But I think at this point, Tailwind, is this enough, right? If Marco goes for the Tailwind here, is that +2 speeds going to be enough for this Great Tusk to move first?
There's only one way to find out, but Icy Wind comes through, so it's going to be a very close knocking out the Talonflame. Talonflame, I think if it goes for any serious attack, something like the Brave Bird, it should just be knocking itself out. But let's see what it decides to do to wrap up this turn. It does get the Tailwind, but you know, didn't get to go before the Icy Wind. Probably needed to protect the Great Tusk there and then set up for the next couple of turns. As yeah, the Tailwind set up, but Talonflame, you're going to pay for that one.
Yep, that's going to be a pretty big double knockout here going in for Aurelia. And it's tough, right? Because the booster energy does make that Iron Bundle super speedy. So especially without the Gale Wings there, you're not getting priority on the Tailwind to ensure its success before the Great Tusk gets to move.
Well,
now though,
he's just committed to the same idea. Just bring in these two Paradox Pokemon and try and win the game with two of them with a little bit of setup. And you know, now he's got rid of the Mouse Hold as well. That's a lot easier to try and work through. Of course, you know, the Tailwind's going to help out. Even with the boost, I think Iron Bundle's still going to be struggling. I mean, it's also going to lose the mirror, right? Because it's Tailwind on one Iron Bundle and no Tailwind on the other. They've both used the booster energy. So Marco knows he has the speed advantage going into this. There is no use of the Trustalization yet from Aurelia. So maybe something to bear in mind is, yeah, a quick freeze dry over there. Not going to be enough for the knockout. But then a Moonblast following up is a knockout over onto the Golden Go.
Ah, really nice there for Marco to try to bring things back in and even up the Pokemon count. As, yeah, the Tailwind's going to really help out there as the Freeze Dry now comes through into the Flutter Mane, knowing that that's going to be one of the bigger threats, but takes that pretty well here as we look at what Aurelia is going to have as that fourth and final for this game number 2, and it's an opposing Great Tusk.
Yep, we're seeing two Great Tusks in the same game, and let's see if this one is able to clutch it out as we are down 2-2. Of course, we do have to contend with the Tailwind over on Marco's side, and he's still got 2 more turns of that to try and wrap the game up with. So all he needs to do is make sure his attacks are landing. I think as soon as he gets out of that situation, then it could be getting a little bit dicey. We could be looking at the infamous speed tie coming through, but Aurelia needs to really land some attacks. And if this Great Tusk can take a hit, or maybe 2, you know, it could be a big problem.
I think so. It comes down to this, though. It's going to be a Terrestrialization here on Aurelia's side, saving it for the very end so that this Great Tusk can do as much damage as possible. As we see the Ground Terra come through. A lot of really nice options here on that Great Tusk to really make use of that double same type attack bonus here. As we just see another safe play here coming through from the Iron Bundle. So that's not going to be a viable target this time around.
Well, it's going to land Icy Wind. It's going to go into the protecting of the Iron Bundle. This is nice. Try and break that Focus Sash and then try and tidy it up. That is a ridiculous amount of damage with the critical hit. You know, the Sash is gone now. Just one more hit, and this one should be leveling it up. Yep, the Moonblast goes the right way.
Yep, there we go. So it's going to be that double into the Great Tusk, and that's why it's just not special defensively bulky. That was a lot of damage, and even without the critical hit there, you're pretty sure to get the knockout with the double up with both of these special attackers. So it's just the Iron Bundle left that you have to clean up here, and so Aurelien gonna probably lose this final Pokemon, and we've got a series on our hands, Dawes.
Taking the foot off the gas there really hurts. That Iron Bundle on Aurelien's side just being so cautious, doesn't want to get caught by a Moonblast or an opposing Freeze Dry because you knew it was going to be the slowest thing. But Marco was like, okay, the only thing I'm scared of right now is Great Tusk getting through the end of this turn. So I'm just not dealing with it. The Icy Wind being the first hit, obviously it's huge damage as well. But after that point, I mean, even if the Icy Wind wasn't a critical hit, right, then the Focus Sash is still the concern. You know, you need to be able to deal with it over on that side and make sure that that isn't a factor. You need to hit it twice in a turn, and you know, Marco did just that, and I think maybe there's a world where if the Iron Bundle on Aurelien's side goes for it in that turn, gets a knockout, could then fish and try and kind of play just a straight-up 1v1 when the Tailwind ends, but didn't even give himself that opportunity. So a little bit of course correction needed. I do think the change of lead was much preferred from Marco. I think the Tyranitar being taken out and replaced with a Great Tusk just felt a lot better. You're next to a Talonflame, you can click Earthquake and deal some big damage, even though you're going into the friend gap.
Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised why Aurelien didn't go for a double protect there. Could have gone for a protect with the Great Tusk and the Iron Bundle.
I think what Aurelien is relying on there is, you know,
or just calling a big read.
Marco spreads the damage, right, and just tries to take, you know, one-on-one, and then, of course, gets to fire back with the Great Tusk. We don't know what the Great Tusk was going for, and that's kind of something interesting, right? It's like, was the Great Tusk just going for a massive Earthquake and was like, all right, I'm going to sacrifice this at some point and be in a good position? But I think maybe overthinking that turn a little bit, expecting Marco not to double up. I mean, it's just a good read from Marco, too. I mean, he understands that Great Tusk cannot get an attack off. You know you've got to hit it twice. Know about the Focus Sash, it's written on the sheet in front of you. So just target it twice. Obviously, there's a bit of wiggle room where Icy Wind doesn't hit, and you can maybe get through the end of that turn. But as soon as it does, you know, you're able to definitely get a knockout with the following hit.
All right, well, we've got our game number 3 upon us here, and this is for all of the glory to see who will remain undefeated in day number 1 of the OCIC 2023 competition. And we've got our Talonflame and our Great Tusk here from Marco. On the other side, it's a run back here as well as we have the Golden Go and the Mousehold.
Yeah, I mean, they've both won a game with this lead. Makes a lot of sense. You know, they're very different game plans, though, from each game. In the first game, we saw a lot more out of the Golden Go, terastallizing immediately into the Steel type, working in that nasty plot. The problem is you're facing down something like this Great Tusk, which is once again terastallizing, and that is going to do a lot more damage. So maybe not worth wasting a terastallization on that first turn and just trying to find a little bit of wiggle room. Once again, you know, this Talonflame is staring down this Mousehold. It has gone for the Tailwind, though, because the Mousehold probably respects that the Taunt potentially is coming through the next turn. Just once again, though, lands that Baby Doll Eyes. Will this be enough to help out against the Great Tusk? Because it does still do a lot of damage.
Yes, it does. I mean, you've got the Earthquake coming through here. The Golden Go was not able to... Yeah, I mean, it was able to survive last time, but even with the attack drop as well as the Front Guard, that is a very safe Golden Go there, and you're going to take that one pretty well, too, if you're the Great Tusk.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage going down there. That's, you know, not going to be able to... Unless you land another Baby Doll Eyes, right? If you can get another Baby Doll Eyes down, maybe, but I'm just not sure if that's going to be able to come through, because as soon as another Earthquake hits, things are going to get a little bit tricky. That's really the big concern here, because, you know, it's been pretty easy right now for this Great Tusk to just land these Earthquakes. It's not like it's a move that can miss. It's not like it's something like a Precipice Blades, and that could be a very quick double knockout if Aurelien is not careful, and has to do something about that.
Yep, just going to go ahead and remove the Golden Go. Also resets the special attack drop coming through from the Make It Rain, and it's going to be a Dragonite. That's a little bit of a switch up here from our games 1 and 2 to see that Pokemon come into the mix, and it is a flying type, so it will be able to stay away from the Earthquake.
Yeah, it's not going to get caught by the Earthquake, but it is going to get caught by the Brave Bird on the way in, so the multi-scale already removed. I don't know if that would be a factor right now. Obviously, it could be a little bit later with some of the choices on Marco's team. But it's an interesting combination. I mean, I do think that Mousehold and Dragonite have a lot of work together that they can absolutely do, because it kind of walls this Great Tusk a little bit. I don't really know what the Great Tusk expects to do into it. It can't hit it with the ground type attacks unless there's some crazy Terra typing going on, but a lot of them do stick with that Terra flying, and then really struggles once again with the fighting move of close combat. So kind of walls the Great Tusk here. Doesn't really mind the Talonflame too much either, but can it do enough to wiggle things back in? This Mousehold for the first time hasn't been taunted and is getting a lot of value out of this.
Well, I like that Marco did try to cover for the Follow Me, though, by directing the Will-O-Wisp into the Dragonite, but with the Follow Me, of course, it will redirect that status attack away. As a Headlong Rush now to be able to follow it up, it's going to go into the Mousehold and secure the knockout here, but it does leave the Great Tusk even more vulnerable as you see those defense and special defense drops come through.
Yeah, the Great Tusk would be pretty easy to get knocked out right now. So being able to play through that, as it's just a simple Dragon Claw into the Talonflame, will get the knockout there. And of course the Talonflame now won't be able to reset the Tailwind when the time comes. So has to be careful in this one, but once again it's that sweeping pair in the back, which is going to cause so many problems, especially for this Dragonite, as it's a very easy hover onto the Iron Bundle here for Marco Silva.
Yeah, I think something else that's a pretty big threat here for Marco is that you're dealing with Ice Spinner as an option here on Aurelia's Dragonite. So as you look at that with the Great Tusk in front of you, you're like, that's a pretty awesome move to pick. But the fourth and final here for Aurelia will be his own Great Tusk.
Yeah, the Great Tusk mirror is back upon us. It is something that is going to be a dicey one. It gets a little bit closer when you remove Tailwind, but speed control is still an option for Marco, as you see him hovering it there already on the Iron Bundle, being able to just kind of command the field really easily with the use of Icy Wind, which, as I said to Lou earlier, I believe, Icy Wind looks like an actual super offensive attack when it comes off an Iron Bundle. I'm used to it doing like 10% at a push if you hit something super effectively, and now we're talking like 60-70 percentages. This is not the Icy Wind that I grew up with.
No, but even though that we're going to see the Dragonite Terra flying now, it's still going to hurt too. You're not removing all of that super effective pressure. At least the Great Tusk doesn't really want any of that, so we'll end up going for a Protect here, but the Icy Wind, trying to connect with the Dragonite to at least slow it down, will be able to do just that. And yeah, that's still going to be a lot of damage for an Icy Wind, no less.
Yeah, that's a little bit too much for an Icy Wind for me. A Headlong Rush will fail to connect into the Great Tusk, but I mean, these Headlong Rushes from Marco's side of the field are going to be even more damaging, because the Terra Blast does fire back, and I think Dragonite with Terra flying is really good, but it's just not enough to deal with this Iron Bundle right now.
No, but the Tailwind is expired, so Aurelia has bought himself enough time now to see whether or not the Dragonite and the Great Tusk will be enough to go through these next few turns.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be the Icy Wind yet. Probably wants to save that for the final two when they get there. And, of course, get around this extreme speed for a turn. That is going to be a big concern for the Iron Bundle. No Icy Wind can stop that one. It is going to be a Headlong Rush coming out from Aurelia's side first, and it takes down the Terra Great Tusk as well. So big momentum swings. It's kind of boxed in for Marco. He has to play once again with this last two, with no Tailwind, up against the 3 Pokemon remaining of Aurelia Soula.
Well, at least the Fluttermane is still pretty fast Pokemon, so even outside of Tailwind, it will be able to at least still go for some of these attacks. You've got the Icy Wind as well to help drop that attack, and, hasn't been doing too much into the Terra Flying Dragonite, as we got a chance to see in a previous turn, but maybe the Fluttermane is able to help pick it up. Can't leave that Great Tusk alone for too long, but maybe that special defense drop coming in from the Headlong Rush would be enough.
Yeah, this is a really tough decision for Marco. Was trying to see if the double protect was there, but he didn't even try it as the Iron Bundle is felled. This is the pressure that Extreme Speed puts down from this Dragonite. It is going to be the Moonblast over onto the Great Tusk, but of course, it's got the Focus Sash. It's able to hold on. Special defense doesn't matter when you just get to take 2 hits. And of course, a little bit of HP gone there. The Headlong Rush in retaliation takes it down.
That's going to do it. That final knockout here for Aurelien will net him the win over Marco Silva, the reigning OCIC champion.